Merriam-Webster says that apocalypse, as opposed to the apocalypse, is an event involving destruction or damage on an awesome or catastrophic scale. But the Liddell Scott Greek-English lexicon defines apocalypse as an uncovering, a disclosing, or a revelation. Both definitions seem relevant today, don't they? I started talking about apocalypse more than a year ago because it felt like one was coming. I had no way of knowing that it would be a teeny little virus that would kill thousands, have us socially distanced, sheltering in place, and wreak havoc with the economy. I also had no idea it would be followed up by an uprising of black and brown people and a change of heart for so many white people in our nation. And folks, it ain't over. In many ways, it's just begun. Please don't relax your COVID-19 restrictions. Stay at home as much as humanly possible. During this time, be like your dog, wary of guests, sticking close to home, and going for a walk when necessary. We all know that there's an economic crisis on its way. Some are feeling it already, and some of us will begin to feel it soon. In thinking about apocalypse, I've been led by a few guides, folks who are already imagining what's next. Some of them are Adrienne Marie Brown, Leah Lakshmi Piepzna Samar Sinha, Octavia Butler, Miriam Kaba, and many more. They are all folks who already understand what apocalypse feels like. You know, black and brown and queer and disabled folks already know apocalypse intimately. So here we go. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. All that you touch, you change. All that you change, changes you. The only lasting truth is change. God is change. Octavia Butler said that in her seminal work, The Parable of the Sower. Listen once again. All that you touch, you change. All that you change, changes you. The only lasting truth is change. God is change. Y'all know a little bit about change right now, don't you? What changes have you made in the last few months? Maybe you've changed the place you work. Maybe you've changed your stress routine. Maybe you've changed who you see day in and day out. I know that you've changed your habits around coming to church. Maybe you've changed how you do the tasks of your days, grocery shopping, cleaning, even how you eat. You know about change. But how has it been for you? You've made those changes. How have they changed you? A significant change that I've made has been in my stress routine. Used to be a good 20-minute walk 3 or 4 times a week would manage all my stress and anxiety. Now it takes a run every day. Luckily, it doesn't have to be a long run, but if I don't run at least 12 to 15 minutes, along with some walking, I can fall prey to anxiety and depression. Change is hard, y'all. With all the changes, they have changed me into a person who's more susceptible to depression and anxiety. What about you? How have these changes changed you? Our text today is found in 1 Corinthians chapter 8. The church in Corinth was facing a lot of change. They were a new community, changing their understanding of who God is, changing their lives to be in communion with that God. creating a new community with new mores and rules. Paul addressed in chapter 8 of 1 Corinthians one of those rules. Should the meat that they eat, or rather, should they eat meat that had been sacrificed to idols? Paul's first response was to say that there's no such thing as idols. So there's no problem with eating the food that's been sacrificed to them. That's definitely a change in the rules. But then Paul goes back to say that some people may be offended by folks eating meat sacrificed to idols, that it may weaken their faith. So there's a choice that the Corinthians must make. They can either eat the meat, but they should think closely as to rather they should eat the meat. And Paul adds another imperative to the conversation. He says, all of us possess knowledge. Knowledge puffs up, but love builds up. Anyone who claims to know something does not yet have the necessary knowledge. Paul is essentially asking the people of Corinth to be open to learning, to replace the knowledge that they already have with an openness to new understanding. He's saying to those who are eating the meat, you're right. And he's saying being open is better than being right. Being flexible in your understanding is better than having all the knowledge. So what if, during this time of apocalypse, we're open rather than being right? What if we're flexible rather than being knowledgeable? Because all that you touch, you change. All that you change changes you. I think it's as if we need to unlearn some things that we may even be knowledgeable about. Perhaps it's time to unlearn the ideas of ownership and domination of the land, and learn that we must nurture the earth so she can nurture us. Perhaps it's time to unlearn scarcity. The idea that life is a zero-sum game and that we must fight to get our piece of the pie, and to learn that we live in an abundant world with enough for everyone. Perhaps it's time to unlearn the idea that life is about production and marketing, and that success is always bigger and more, and learn that it is instead about collaboration and evolution, and how our progress will affect the next generations. Perhaps it's time to unlearn individualism and learn to see ourselves as part of the whole, recognizing that teamwork and cooperation are important and that we are accountable to others. Perhaps it's time to unlearn our belief that those with power deserve emotional and psychological comfort, and learn that discomfort is the root of all growth and learning, so discomfort should be welcomed. Perhaps, like the Corinthians, we need to unlearn our impatience with those who are not logical like we are, and learn that everyone has a worldview, and begin to believe that everyone's point of view is valid, and work to understand them. Perhaps we need to unlearn bonding through gossip, venting, and destroying, and learn to cultivate solutions together. Perhaps we need to unlearn our measures of success, including money and power. And instead of seeing money as a mark of success, looking at community impact of our organizations and the work we do in the world. And finally, perhaps the most important thing we need to unlearn is the idea that we should only work at what is already possible and learn that we can work to make the impossible happen. I'm going to put this list in the comments. Maybe you'd like to spend a little time this week thinking about them. All that you touch, you change. All that you change changes you. The only lasting truth is change. God is change. I thought as I close this time with you, we could pray together again with our whole bodies. I hope you'll join me. Wherever you are, connect with your sit bones. Put your feet on the ground. Take a deep breath in. For this prayer, we're going to practice a 4-part breath, which in some ways can mimic the way that we learn new things. We're going to breathe in deeply for a count of 4, and then hold it for a count of 1, and then release the air for another count of 4, then hold again for a count of 1. It'll go like this. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4. Breathe, hold, 1. Breathe out, 2, 3, 4, hold, 1. So let's try it. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4, hold. Breathe out, 2, 3, 4, hold. Breathe in, hold. Breathe out, hold. Breathe in, hold. Breathe out, hold. As you breathe in the next round, think about how breathing like this shifts your thinking. In, pause. Out, pause. Pauses are good, aren't they? Don't they help us reflect on the breath just a little more? Isn't it a deepening of thinking about your breath and about what is happening in the now? So let's go again. Breathe in, hold, breathe out, hold. Breathe in, hold, breathe out, hold. Now, what if we look at learning and unlearning like this? Take in an idea, hold it there for just a moment, and then let go of the parts that don't feel right. Let's go again, thinking about learning and unlearning. So, breathe in, hold, breathe out, hold. Learn in, hold, learn out, hold. Learn in, hold, unlearn, hold. Now, after all this breathing, pray with me, please. Oh God, hear our prayer. All of this around us is a miracle. Help us to remember what the people of Corinth had to learn, that anyone who claims to know something does not yet have the necessary knowledge. Help us to unlearn what we've gotten wrong and to learn what we need in this moment, O God, and to welcome all that is. Amen.